Kyler Murray. Now, Charean, you mentioned him last week in the context of the Bengals possibly taking receiver Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow's comments about that, which were very diplomatic and not necessarily over the top. Go get Jamar, get my former teammate. Because as you pointed out last year, Kyler Murray was very vocal with his desire that the team draft CeeDee Lamb, a former Kyler Murray college teammate. Here is Kyler Murray from NFL Network explaining that he believes, entering year 3 of his career, that he should have some sort of a say in what the Cardinals do on draft day. Here he is.
I do believe I think I have an influence in it. I don't know why I wouldn't. I think if you got a guy, a quarterback, and you trust him, and you want to be the face of the franchise for a lot of years, I think he should have influence. Just because everything is technically built around the quarterback. So I think I had that relationship with Steve and Cliff, and I'm excited to see what we do on Thursday.
Look, this is a debate that comes up in various contexts with various quarterbacks, and some would say you just play football. You're not involved in management. Remember the story that came out this year from The Athletic about Russell Wilson trying to have a voice in fixing the offense when it was struggling. They had a short week coming up, coincidentally, against the Arizona Cardinals. He had ideas for fixing the offense. Seahawks said, thank you, no thank you. Charean, I'm a firm believer that if you expect your starting quarterback to be basically a manager working among the other employees, which is what a true leader is going to do, show up early, stay late, study the playbook, hold guys accountable, set the right example, be the emissary for management. Management tells the quarterback what it wants the players to do, and the quarterback ends up being the one who communicates the message and keeps everyone in line. Ideally, that's how it works. If you're going to expect that out of your quarterback, you can't freeze him out. You just can't. You can't tell him, sit down, shut up, you just work here. So I don't know that influence is the right answer, but I definitely think they should hear him out. I think it's smart to hear out your key players, your guys who you're building the team around. And with quarterbacks becoming more and more important every year, if you've got a guy that you're going to value for years into the future, why do you not want to make him a partner in the way that you're running your football team? Because he's the one who's going to be expected to inspire that guy along with everyone else to elevate the team above the sum of the individual parts. That's what a great quarterback can do. So I think you empower your quarterback to have a voice. And if you disagree with what he's saying, you have the respect for him that he's going to understand it. And you talk to him like an adult and you tell him why you're going to go in a different direction. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, you answered my question, Mike, and I was going to ask if Kyler Murray had earned that. One Pro Bowl that frankly should have gone to Tom Brady last season, no playoff appearances. But you answered it because, yes, they do value him as their franchise quarterback. That's how they see him, as their franchise quarterback. I would say this. I would think he would have more say if they're looking on the offensive side of the ball. I just remember Troy Aikman going and working out prospects one year, throwing with the tight, of course, you couldn't do that this year, but throwing with the tight ends and the receivers and players that they were interested in. I know he did that. And so then they got his feedback, and that's perfectly acceptable if something like that happens. And, Kyler Murray was in college recently, and so he knows many of these college players. He played against them, so he can give you feedback. So I don't think it hurts to get that feedback. But do I want him making my pick? Probably not. But I would take his feedback and listen to him, and maybe he makes a good point on this thing. But I tell you what, Mike, this is another team that better go defense, considering how they ranked offensively last season and how they ranked defensively, or 13th in total defense last year. They've got to improve that defense, again, if they're going to contend, especially in the hardest division in football.
Hey, let me take it a step farther, Charean, because if I had a young quarterback that I envisioned being the centerpiece of the franchise for years to come, and I think it's fair to call Kyler Murray that, I would find ways. If he's a guy who lives in town all year long, is around. Now, I know they're limited in what they can do by way of meeting with players in the offseason, but I would find a way to get him involved as I possibly can with free agency preparations, with draft preparations. Teach him how to evaluate personnel. Who better, as he grows and matures and develops as a player, than the quarterback to understand how they go about looking for talent, what they go about looking for. Teach him the language. Teach him that skill. Think of the way that quarterbacks, and look at the guys like John Elway, who became a great executive in Denver despite having very limited experience, and I had concerns about him getting that job when he did because it's not like anybody else was trying to hire him. It was a Denver thing. But when you have been that great leader on the field, you could develop into a great leader. They could be grooming a great GM for another team, frankly. But I think that if you've got a guy who's all in and you've got the quiet months where, you know, he's working out on his own and he's doing things, and he wants to do it. If he wants to do it, if he wants to learn, if he loves it that much, I just think that there's a lot of value there in having one of your key players fully understand what you're looking for, all in the planning process, all in the scouting process. That could be a very valuable tool that teams aren't taking advantage of.
And there's certain quarterbacks in the league, Mike, that I absolutely would listen to their opinions. That's Tom Brady and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and those guys we know out there who you definitely would listen to what they want and what they think, and they look at these. I guarantee you Tom Brady looks at these players and probably gives them feedback on who he wants. We saw it in free agency a lot. We saw it last year a lot. So, yeah, if they want to give Kyler Murray some of those powers and he wants to learn how to do it, how to watch film correctly and figure out who they might draft, go for it and do a good job at it, and they can listen to him. And they don't have to take what he says and make that their draft pick, because it's their jobs on the line, not necessarily Kyler Murray's job on the line. So they need to make those picks for who they think the best player is, not who Kyler Murray says the best player is. But they can have a good discussion about it for sure, Mike, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.